so I held this mounting plate up where it's going to go, and I'm using the anchors, and then I'm going to use a 3-inch screw on the other side. I'm not using a level because this board is so close. If I go level with this and this board's off, it's not going to look good. So I'm just going to measure. It was perfect. Big shocker there. With the cord and everything that's plugged in here, there's quite a bit of weight there, so that's why I wanted to anchor it really well. That's why you saw me do all that. So I am going to run exposed conduit. This is just 3/4 inch conduit. I'm going to run some 8-3 Romex. I'm just going to run it straight down. A reason for that and not fishing it in the wall is this an outside wall in between 2 garage doors. There's a good chance that this header above these garage doors goes all the way through there. I don't want to deal with that. It's a garage. This conduit's going to look fine in here, so I'm just going to run it on the surface. You always got to know that there is a board right here. That's a nailer for the drywall. So I'm just going to come out about 2 inches. I'm going to come out about 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to drill this hole, and then I'll just offset. Now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to fish it up there. But before I do that, I'm going to go outside to where I'm bringing it into that disconnect, and I'm going to drill a hole in the soffit where I'm going to bring that conduit down into that panel. Now I'm just going to shove this fishing pole up in the attic so I know where I'm going. Go back in the garage and poke that wire up. Now that that wire's up there, I'm going to get up in the attic and pull it over to where I shove that fishing pole up, and then I'll be able to connect both ends with some conduit, and I'll show you that process. So it was hard to reach. That's a good reason why I pushed this fishing pole up there. In case it was hard to reach, all I had to do was bring some tape up there, then I could tape the wire on and pull it right out. So here we are. And now I'm going to pull it long enough to where that conduit is going to get that to reach the breaker. So I'm going to bring that in about there. So this is what's called the line side because it's coming from the panel. That other side's the load. Typically you want to hook up the load first, so that's what I'm going to go do right now. So now I'm going to use this bender. I'm going to bend that little offset up there. I like to put my offsets right at the edge of the bender. This is going to be kind of a guess and check. It was just a hair much. I'm just going to take that out right now. I think that's good. Anytime you're running wire in a conduit, you cannot have this live edge like this, so they make bushings. These are just called, in the trade, we call them hammer-on bushings. And then as you can see, it'll protect the wire from getting nicked. It's got this little lip here that this just slides right onto. And all I got to do is put the 2 screws they provided for that. The reason I'm mounting this right now is because I got to bring my conduit into this charger. So the first thing I'm going to do is bend a 90 down here, which I'm just going to do a stub 90. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure over to this edge right here, because that's the back edge of that 90. I'll show you how I'm doing that. Alright, so I want this 90 as short as possible on this end, so I'm just going to put it so it's flush to the bender. Don't worry guys, it's smooth. Now I'm measuring from the back of that, so I'm going to go from this connector to that wall. It's going to be 12 3/8. Because on a 3/4 inch piece of pipe, it takes up 6 inches. I'm going to go 6 3/8 here. So now I'm going to put that arrow on that mark. I'm going to make sure these are lined up, the top of this 90 and this bender, and then just bend a 90. Now you can check that 90 by just putting this bender on there. If it looks pretty level, it's good. If it doesn't, you can just bend it one way or the other until it looks right. Another thing you want to do when you do back-to-back 90s is make sure that lays flat on the floor, like it does there. If you have any wobble, you got to adjust it. I want to kick this out, end up where that bender is. I'm just going to take this, put a little bitty kick in it. What that's going to do is it's going to bring that conduit out off the wall. So that 90 didn't quite line up, so I'm going to shorten this 90. What I'm going to do is raise this bender up and flatten this out a little bit. And then I'm going to raise this bender up a little bit higher than what I was at. I'm when I bent that 90, that's gonna short my 90 there. Per code, we gotta have a strap here within 3 feet of this box. Now, I'm gonna make this charger up here. All right, so this particular charger doesn't need a ground, so I'm just gonna cut this. Then, you've got the L1, L2, and the ground. You see these little dip switches here in the instructions. This one's kind of different from what I've installed before. If you install 8 gauge on a 50 amp circuit breaker, set dip switch 1 and 2 to on, and then 3 to off. So now I've set this to exactly what they told me. Now I'm gonna measure down to this panel here to find out where I'm gonna go with my 90. And I'm gonna try to end that 90 pretty good there, so I'm gonna go about 67 inches. I'm gonna cut that 90 off at about 16 inches. As I said, I was gonna do 67 inches, so I'm making my mark at 61. You subtract 6 inches on a 3/4 90. I said I was gonna cut this off at 16. I got my bender on there. That, and because I didn't drill the hole yet, doesn't really matter where I kick this. So I also had that hole up there, so I'm going to offset to that hole as well. As you'll see, I drilled that bitch out. This is a live electrical panel. If you're not a professional, don't go into a live panel like I just did. I'm just going to tape this end up, taking all the conductive parts away so that when I shove this in there, it's not going to hit anything it shouldn't. There is a rule against Romexing an outside conduit. If you want to get real technical about it, I was supposed to set a J-box and come down out of the soffit like that. I'll be honest with you, I would put my life on this that it won't fail due to rain, okay? Plus, I gotta give all my Karens something to complain about. When it's 240 volt, it does not matter where these go. Code doesn't care. There is kind of an industry standard. You always go black, red, top to bottom, left to right, but code does not specify orientation. They only specify color. It's on. Let's go check it out. It's lit up and white in the instructions said it was good to go. Well, there's my start to finish car charger install. Hope you enjoyed it. And remember, be an electrician. Leave your mouth.